Hi folks, I'm Mike and I hope you're well. Welcome to edition number 11 of Fix My Mix, the show where we listen to some songs from the community, some mixes from the community, and myself and my guests give our impressions, our initial impressions about how these mixes could be improved. Hopefully, it helps the people who are sending in the mixes and also the wonderful people who are watching. We can learn together by observing mixes and learning to use our ears and our knowledge to think about how they could be improved. And talking about people who are here live, thank you so much to the people who are already here in the live chat. We have Dino here. Nice to see you, Dino, as always. Kionra is here. My goodness, she's had a big week, actually. I've seen lots of activity from her on social media about her first music being created. It's wonderful to see. We also have the awesome Mimo Japan, a legend in the community, and we also have another legend, Doug Kidder here. Nice to see you, Doug. I'll be talking about you later on in the show, actually. And wonderful to see one of my favourite artists here, Happy Ron, who's had probably my favourite song in my other show, which was our featured artist show. Nice to see you in here, Ron. Thank you to our sponsor, DistroKid. If you follow the link in the description for those, you will, of course, get a discount at no extra cost to you, and I will get a little kickback for that. They're all already very well priced, and we'll be talking about them a little later on in the show. But first of all, let me bring a very special person onto the show. My guest for this week, my oldest YouTube buddy. Not that he's old. Well, no, he is old, but he also happens to be my oldest YouTube buddy, and his name is Mr. Pete Johns from Studio Live. How you going, buddy?
I'm going exceptionally well. I'm ready to use my ears and potentially my brain and knowledge, but I'll at least be able to listen, so I don't want any pressure to be put on a couple of old blokes here on a Friday morning. But no, great to be back here as usual. Hello to all of your wonderful community.
Yeah, aren't they awesome? It's a shame I didn't have you on camera when I was talking about the sponsor DistroKid, because I missed the opportunity to ask you to point to your tits.
Is that the first time someone's jiggled their boobies on your show?
There was actually a little bit of a jiggle there, worryingly so.
I'll take the level down. 3 minutes in and we're already down in the gutter, mate. Happens
I might ask you to get them out later for us. Now, Pete, here's the thing I want to ask you about, because you're into these sort of philosophical conversations, and I want to ask you about this. I was actually chatting earlier today to Doug Kidder, who's a moderator in here, and I did a video yesterday, I think, about a new sound library from Heaviosity, which is a contact library, and he hadn't quite understood how to register the serial number, and I had to explain to him in a Facebook chat that where he had to register it, blah, blah, blah. The details are not important.
Good. I don't get it so far. Yes, continue.
But it did strike me that there was a reason I had to sort of instruct Doug a little bit, is because it was not a very straightforward process, to be honest with you. I knew how to do it because I knew how to do it from other experiences, but it wasn't. But it struck me what a great service it was to a community that he even posted the question because I thought, well, somebody else is going to, he said, oh, it's a new mistake and blah, blah, blah. And I gave him what I thought was a solution. But I thought, well, how many people are going to benefit from him asking the question?
Yep.
Have you ever felt that on Studio Live today, your wonderful channel where there is a link down in the description? Have you ever pondered on? We should say thank you to these people, shouldn't we?
Oh, absolutely. That's why the first thing I do on the show here is I say, hi, Mike, you're okay, but your community is who I really want to say hello to, because they're the people that do all the heavy lifting, aren't they? Like the fact that in our Facebook groups and in our Discords now and all over the place, there are just so many people that are willing and able to help other people out. And I always say, I said, funnily enough, exactly the same thing happened during the week. Someone sent me a message and they were asking about something, and I think I was really flat out doing some videos, so I just sent them a quick email just saying, oh, really sorry, I'd love to be able to help you. Maybe go over to the Create, Record, Release, my Facebook group, and ask the wonderful folks there. And they went over there and they did it, and like within 3 hours they had like a pile of different answers and recommendations. And I'm like, if you just waited on me, you'd probably still be waiting for that email 7 days later. If you go in there there and you use these community resources, there are so many people. And part two of that is these companies need to be listening to this stuff too. The good companies like DistroKid are the people that actually listen to their end users, and they build features to be easy and user-friendly so that you're not looking for where you put the frickin' serial number in, because that is a pain. There are a lot of problems. The reason I use free stuff more often than not is these bloody things with their keys and their serial numbers and their registration links and their all this BS. It just takes more time to get the thing up and running than actually using it to create music. So,
well, funnily enough, though, the thing is with a lot of free stuff, of course, the reason they're making it free is to promote their other paid stuff, which is fine. I've got nothing against that. I mean, wonderful. We all get to benefit. But they do often require you to register with them. And one of my viewers, I apologise for not remembering their name, made a comment in my social media yesterday that they just couldn't be bothered to open another account. And fair play, hey. You do get a little bit fed up with continuously having to register here, there. But email is crazy.
I know, I must admit, there's sometimes when you like download something and it's like, if you register, you get a bonus 2 additional presets. And I'm just like, pass, can't be asked doing it. No, don't need 2 presets. I'm just going to keep using it without registering. It's fine.
All of this may be the reason why I currently have 2,500 unread emails in my Gmail account. So if you are sending me emails and I haven't responded, then that's part of the reason why. If, however, you're sending me an email to submit your song for this show, Fix My Mix, then I have a little filter set up for that. And if you put Fix My Mix in the title of the email, instructions are in the description down below, then I actually do find those emails. Other emails, maybe not getting a reply from me at the moment. Sorry about that.
So but there's a hack for you. Even if you don't want to register a song, just put Fix My Mix and then ask your other question and Mike will be tricked into responding to you. There you go.
Life hacks from Pete Johns here. I like that very, very much. Pete, we've got an interesting show. 3 songs coming up. And one of them is controversial. We're going to have a little sort of interesting way of looking at that song. And one of them, the person sent me an email and said, "You've never had a piece of music like this on your show before." And I thought, nice marketing in your email. I won't say their name yet, but nice. It made me look at the email closely. And the great thing was they followed up with the goods, because it is a really different piece of music. We've never had anything like it on any of my shows before, and that's why it's on the show. That's going to be interesting to listen to. But let's start off with, and I haven't teed up the song. I've been nattering with you, and I haven't teed up the song. I'll do that now. Let's start off with the first song, which is from a viewer called Don Tucker. A song called You and Me Again. Don says this song was written about 25 years ago. Recently had some good recording equipment, and my old band and I decided to re-record the song. I'm not sure if the song was called You and Me originally, and then he's called it You and Me Again for a remix. I'm not really sure. It could be. But I'd love to hear your input on the recording and arrangement. I've loved music all of my life, but life took me in many other directions. We know that feeling. Now that I'm retired, I'd like to get back to it. So here's my second take on this song 25 years later. And as he says, the title of the song is You and Me Again. Let's see how we go with this. And don't forget, the people in the chat, we'd love to have your input. We'd love to hear what you have to say about these mixes.
Absolutely.
People come and people go, distant memories like some old picture show. Everybody seems to float off on the breeze, everyone but you and me. Well, we've seen it all before, same old storyline of some deserted shore. Lovers tossed upon the sands by stormy seas, alone again, just you and me. It's you and me again, lovers hand in hand. We'll walk those silent corridors, we'll march on last song and left the stage. Strung our last chord, there's nothing else to play. Let's hope they will remember us someday. Well, we played it hard, we played it very well. I think we touched some hearts, sometimes it's hard to tell. We shared our stories and we shared some of our soul. But now, my dear, it's time for us to go. It's you and me again, lovers hand in hand. We'll walk those silent corridors, we'll march on with a band. It's you and me again, lovers till the end. There's one thing that we know for sure, it all comes down to you and me again. It's you and me again, lovers hand in hand. We'll walk those silent corridors, we'll march on with a band. It's you and me again, lovers till the end. There's one thing that we know for sure, it all comes down to you and me again. It all comes down to you and me again. It all comes down to you and me again.
Such a cruisy start to the show, hey?
That was great.
Friday morning, I was...
I know. That's a Friday morning, get you started, get your day started song, right?
It was, wasn't it?
Totally.
Oh, guess first, Pete. Is much feedback on that? I mean,
Mate, you did warn me before the show. You're like, this is going to be tough ones, Pete, because I've got some pretty friggin' good songs here. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I've been on this show in its various iterations, 6, 7 times now, and it's probably the best song that I've heard. And I don't like to rank things, but in terms of the overall production, and I'll tell you why, but in terms of the overall production, the overall quality of the song, and because it's right up my alley, like that sort of acoustic folk rock jam, bit of an 80s, 90s kind of vibe to it, but with a modern twist, that's exactly the sort of music I go for. So for all the other people you've played, please don't feel bad. This just happens to be right in my wheelhouse in terms of the sort of music that I like. I mean, you're wearing a Police shirt there. I'm a big Icehouse fan, like those 80s and 90s band where they had the beautiful reverbs and the gated snares and all that goodness. That's exactly what we've got here. So, I mean, why did I like it and what worked well? I think Mimo Japan mentioned this, but right off the bat, the song had separation but togetherness, and that sounds a bit weird. And one of the hardest things in this sort of song to do is for it to not become a big muddy mess. When you've got multiple acoustic guitars, you've got drums, you've got bass, you've got keys, you've got pads, sometimes you can add too much reverb, it all just becomes this big muddy mid-range mess. What's happened here is, I think, if I saw this project, I think there's a lot of very deliberate EQ done here. And if not, you've just recorded it exceptionally well, because every different instrument, every different frequency range had enough space to just shine. And that meant that you could hear that if you listen closely, you can hear the little sort of steel guitar kind of pad in the background. You can hear the little keys doing their little arpeggios in the background, but they're not distracting and overpowering.
Exactly.
What's actually driving it is the really nice vocals with, again, nice amount of reverb, not swimming in reverb, not too much, not too little, just right, just in the middle there, like the porridge that Baby Bear had, kind of like that. And then, the drums were powerful, but not distractingly so. So I liked that. Some people might listen to those drums and go, oh, you know what? You probably want some, some brushes or something a little bit more laid back and acoustic. But I actually loved the juxtaposition between, hey, it's a mellow acoustic tune, but you got this, Phil Collins in the Air Tonight kick and snare in the background of it. I think it actually worked really well with it. So yeah, look, I was looking for things to complain about. You know me, I like to find things to pick at, but I found it difficult. I think that what would I fix in that mix? I would master it and put it out. That's what I'd do.
That's what great advice. I mean, it's very, very important to actually get things out, as it were.
Yeah.
But don't, Pete, don't do that.
Oh,
Anyway,
wait.
Look, I'm a little bit different to you on this. I think it's so very, very good. Just I've put in my notes here, I've just put in big capital letters, really good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So everything I'm about to say is like grasping at straws a little bit. I felt I'll be honest with you, it's not exactly my style of music that I would listen to. But that's not important to me. I feel it's necessary to declare that because I think what follows on is actually such a big compliment. Because I reckon that for the people that really do like this style of music, they're going to love this. No doubt to me. I know this is a bit of a cliche. People say this thing to me sometimes, but it is good. But I can just hear this on the radio, on the right radio station every day of the week.
Yep.
It's got hooks in it. It's well written. It's got beautiful harmonies. You know, this is the first time I've listened to it all the way through. I can still hear that chorus line in my head, you know, immediately afterwards. All the musicianship in there, absolutely top notch. Is it breaking boundaries? No, it's not. Is it, you know, carving new ground music? No, it's not. But I don't think it's there for that. I think the people who make this sort of music know that. They just make the music they love for the people who love that kind of music as well. But overall, just so well balanced. For some reason, I don't know if anyone else would have picked this up, just a little comment. I'm going to say Neil Diamond. It struck me a little bit here with the vocals. Not that it's a Neil Diamond tone because he's much lower. This was higher, but something about the delivery and the way it was delivered and the phrasing, which, by the way, is a huge compliment for me because I'm actually a big Neil Diamond fan. I know you probably don't know this. This is like a secret obsession of mine, but I just dig his voice so much. I'm like, oh God. But anyway, there you go.
I like it.
Not cool, but whatever. That's what I love.
We're way too old to worry about being cool, Mike.
I know,
Let's be
that's very
honest.
true. But Neil Diamond was before my time even.
Well, yeah,
Anyway, but yeah, but I like that sort of delivery. It's nice. It sounds honest. If I can pick up on anything at all, I wouldn't have minded the snare to have a little bit more snap to it. I'm just talking about an EQ thing here, just some of the higher mids that just had a little bit more snap to it. I wouldn't have minded. Could give that a try or not. It wouldn't really make much difference. But yeah, and listening to it, loving the vocals, loving the harmonies, I wouldn't have minded a little bit more stereo spread on them, just a tad more. Don't go overboard. That can be silly. But they sort of, to me, sound a little bit down a narrow channel in the middle. So yeah, wouldn't mind a little spread on that. But overall, what a great start to the show. Don Tucker and the band, well done. Glad you re-recorded it. It's just good songwriting, hey? I mean, that comes through.
Don Tucker's. Didn't you know Tucker's daughter back in the 80s? Or was Tucker's daughter's just a memory? I forget. It's fine. Sorry, it's a Ian Moss Australian music joke there.
Yeah.
You would have played Tucker's daughter in your busking days, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Tucker's
absolutely.
daughter's a memory.
I think we should segue to Distro. How would you segue to DistroKid from that last comment there, Pete Johnson?
Speaking of great artists releasing great music, if you're an artist and you want to get your music out there onto all the platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Deezer, everywhere, I would use DistroKid because for less than $20 per year, you get a whole year's worth of unlimited uploads of your own music.
Great
Exactly
words from a great man. After I play this little segment about DistroKid, we'll be going on to that controversial song. Here we go. If you do follow the link in the description down below, it's going to take you to a special page on DistroKid with this yellow banner at the top. That banner is letting you know that you're going to get a further 7% discount off your first year if you sign up here. And let's face it, it's already very cheap. If we scroll down, we can see that a year's membership is $19.99 per year for an unlimited number of albums and songs. And so long as it's your own music, there are no extra charges, and you get to keep all of the royalties from the various platforms. Platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, TikTok, Pandora, Amazon, Instagram, Tidal, iHeartRadio, Deezer, and more. Okay, so for the folks in the chat, I'm going to ask you to do something for me for this song, which I've never asked you to do before on this show. All will be revealed later about why I'm asking this, and it's a really odd request for a show like this. As you're listening to this mix, and don't answer too soon, as you're listening to this next mix, I want you to give it just a rating out of 10, okay? Where it's maybe from about halfway through the song. This is not a rating show. It's not about that, but there's a point to this, which I want to get to later. So just do that for me as we listen to the song. Not going to give you any information on the song apart from the artist name and the song title, which my esteemed guest, Mr. Pete Johns, will now read out.
This is a Thor Platter Band, a track called Old Homes and a Diamond Ring.
Okay, let's have a listen to this track. Remember, in the chat, maybe on the replay as well if you want to, if you can be honest about this, then give us your honest opinion out of 10 when you've listened to this mix. Let's have a listen.
Come keep me warm. This winter's so cold. I can see that frost lined up on my window. Hold me in your arms. Kiss me goodnight as I fall asleep. Don't ever let me go. Will you accept what I've become? When I try my best to push away your love. Another night, I lie awake. When does this lonely man begin to break? Who knows what tomorrow brings? If it brings anything, me and you. But old homes and a diamond ring, they're just silly things to hold on to. When you're enough, you're more than enough. But I'm tempted to call your bluff, and I'd hold you close, quiet my mind, and together we could roll these clouds away. But you're not here, so I close my eyes, hear the falling snow slowly turn to rain. It's like anything else in love. It'll fall apart as soon as we agree. Come keep me warm, lay by my side, and I'll try my best not to make believe. Who knows what tomorrow brings? If it brings anything for me and you. Diamond ring, they're just silly things to hold on to. Old homes and a diamond ring, they're just silly things to hold on to.
Okay. So we're going to reveal this in a moment, but I'm seeing a few scores come in there. Just give you a few more seconds. Pete, just give me a score, first of all, out of 10, not for the song, not for the style of music, nothing like that, just for the mix, please.
Just the mix.
Just the mix.
7.
7. Okay. That's a good score, I'm going to say. 7's a good score. You should be saving 8, 9, and 10 for some super duper mixes. I am going to say that I probably would have given this around about a 7 to 8, 7.5, something in that ballpark. Let's have a look and see, just before I reveal why I'm doing this, what some of the other people in the chat have said about this. We have a 4. I think this is the lowest score, actually, from Adventures of Two Afloat, who also happen to say, mix is okay to my rookie ear. I just don't particularly like the song, not my style. Fair enough. We also have an 8 here from DJ Smooth. DJ KS Smooth. Who knows?
DJ Smooth. I think.
Thank you. An 8 there for the mix. Mimo Japan is giving this an 8 for the mix. Danny here, Danny Cable is 7.5. Good day, Danny, by the way. I didn't say hello to you earlier. 7.5. Dino is a 7 to 8. We're a lot of us are in the same ballpark, aren't we? Hey, we have a 7 here from Banjo Minor. Are you someone who digs for gold or something like that, or are you young? Not sure, Banjo Minor, anyway. But
no, yeah, I think it's minor. Mining for banjos or with a banjo. That would be, either way is weird.
Not the easiest tool to dig with, is it?
Not generally.
Anyway, Doug has given this 8.125. Very, very specific.
8 and an 8th.
I love that.
Troublemaker.
I wonder what it was that gave the extra, 0.125. Anyway, Kianra, thank you, has given an 8 here. We also have, did I mention Dino earlier at 7.5? Maybe he went twice. And then we've got a comment here from Electric Hour Works. I was going to get onto this in a moment. This is the engineer of the song, so he can't rate it. You're getting pretty good scores so far. And then we had 7 to 8 from Steve Lane. I'm labouring the point a little bit here. We did have a 6 there. We also had another 7 point. Hang on, that's 875. If we added Doug's 125, that would make it a round number. That's a bit spooky, isn't it?
Was that a bit of a piss take on Doug going the 1.25?
Could be,
it's like I'm 7 and 7/8. If you're 8 and 1/8, there you go.
All right, consider your piss to be taken, Doug. And we have a 7.5. Okay, so around about. I want to say that this has received a decently good score, okay? Now, as I mentioned, the engineer who sent this in to me is a gentleman called Charles H. Root. We'll call him Chaz. And as he mentioned there, he's engineered. So he's not the artist of the song, he's engineered it. That's not controversial. This is a show about mixes, okay?
Yes.
But I will tell you... I'm tempted to go, and he mixed it on the new Mac M1 processor and not a PC or something like that. But
in GarageBand on his iPhone.
Yeah. Chaz does own some Yamaha HS8 and HS8S's monitors. Also, some Eve Audio SC4070 monitors, which they're all good monitors, really, to be honest with you. In different ways. But the thing is, he mixed this on a pair of headphones. Now, they were good headphones, similar to these ones, Olo ones there. They're a good pair of headphones. So here's my point with my little blind test there. The mix on headphones, Pete. What's your opinion about this? Go on, give it to us.
Oh, we've talked about this before. Use what you've got to get the job done, mate. Yeah, look, headphones are great and are what most of us use a lot of the time. If you're in the home studio, if you've got children, if you live in an apartment building, like you can't pump up your 8-inch speakers and fill your room with sound all the time. So headphones are kind of a necessity. And I think, I'll say this all the time about headphones, as long as you've got somewhere else to reference your mix and you can listen to it on a speaker or a Bluetooth speaker or the car or the home theatre at some stage and then take some notes and come back, or you know your headphones so well. That's the second part of that. If you know your headphones so well that you know the frequency response and you know that you're not going to quite hear a lot of that bass or whatever it happens to be, you can adjust for that and then you can usually make a great mix. So yeah, I'm about as far from a monitor snob as you could probably get.
Yeah. I think what's interesting about this is I will say personally, if I can mix on my monitors, I will every day of the week over my headphones. I don't have much need for mixing on headphones. I don't do much mobile mixing. I live in a place where I can crank it up if I want to.
Yep.
All that stuff. However, just because I prefer to mix on monitors doesn't mean I'm one of these people who gets in forums going, you can't produce a decent mix on headphones.
I have 27 years experience in $1 million studios and you can't mix on headphones.
Only amateurs. I like that voice, by the way. Can we do that for the rest? Only amateurs mix on headphones.
Unless you're using $1,000 speakers, it's just not worth it. Don't buy those cheap, crappy ones either.
To anyone who was about to say that on in the chat, or who has previously said that on one of my social media spaces, I apologise. We're not meant to say this. Please have your opinion.
We are.
Because
We
you're
are,
entitled
actually.
to your opinion.
Well, you are. We're entitled to say your opinion in that voice.
I can't believe that anyone would bother with it.
No, sorry.
So I guess the point for me is this: is that if you can produce mixes that people in a blind test are going to give them about 7 or 8, roughly across the board there, and you can do that with headphones, that's pretty good. Now, I imagine that Chaz is a pretty experienced mix engineer by the sounds of it. So, experience and understanding of equipment and all of that is going to come into it. Headphones are not the answer for a perfect mix. But my goodness, I hope we've maybe made a couple of people have food for thought here and think, maybe you can produce a mix with headphones.
Maybe so. And the other interesting thing is, I reckon if this were Fix My Nashville mix and everyone in this chat right now were country music fans, that would have been 9s and 10s, just quietly. Because I think that I probably put my bias towards not loving country music and listening to that song and going, yeah, it's probably a 7. If that was the last song mixed exactly that way, I'd give it a 9.5 or a 10, just quietly. So sometimes our biases on the style of music, and I think Adventures Are Too Afloat, but hello, by the way, they're one of my wonderful community members as well.
Nice.
Yeah, they said 4 because they're like, not my jam. And sometimes it's hard to be subjective about the quality of a mix if it's not your jam. Can I mention one? Are we talking about the mix at all, or are we just...
we can talk about the mix. Let's talk about the actual mix, yes.
Yeah, because I really enjoyed it. I thought anytime you got some pedal steel or lap steel, like, while I'm not a huge country music fan, I think country music just by definition has to have some pedal steel or lap steel or some sort of slide guitar in there, or it's not a proper country song. And I love the lyrics. I love the content of the lyrics. I was trying to listen along there, and I think the message in there was really, really cool. The guitars and the vocals sat really nicely in the mix. The one thing that was distracting to me in the second half was that the drums were just not doing anything for me. They were very static. So there was one fill which was like some toms going dun, 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 as we came into the final chorus, but apart from that, I didn't hear any variation on the low end. And it's the reason it stood out to me is there was so much going up the top end. There was the steel, there was the guitars, there was the vocals, there was great harmonies. Everything was all happening. And then as soon as I just switched my hearing and just went, okay, I'm just going to listen to the bottom end, it was the bass doing basically dum, 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 dum the whole way through, which is okay. And then the drums were just doing the engine room style drums. And maybe I'm being, like, again, because you said these are all really good, which they are. Maybe I was being harsh and going, okay, what can I pick out of this? And I'm like, I would have just loved to hear a couple of additional drum fills or just a change up or movement around on the drums, because to me, drums and bass just were very, very static and didn't do a whole lot, whereas it was in stark contrast. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a good contrast that the higher treble instruments were doing all the heavy lifting. What do you reckon? I'm intrigued with your views on that.
I haven't got too much to say on the song. I mean, and the mix. I think it was for me. It was like one of those. It was a good example because there was a little discussion in my Facebook group earlier on today about mastering, and it was a good example of kind of for me where I think this is going to improve just a little bit. This mix or this song with the mastering, and I mean that I say that carefully because I reckon. You should not think about mastering. You should, during your mix, you should be getting it as good as you possibly can. Never let that thought enter your head where you think, oh, but when I master this, it'll be better. Don't think like that.
Yep.
Sort of get that mix so good and then go, oh, yes, I've got to master it. Oh, yes, I forgot. Now, when you do the mastering, then you're, that's when little bits of magic can happen that you didn't anticipate. The reason I say that is because I thought it was one of these songs where the separation was good between the instruments, and it was almost like too good. Where
a little bit
it wasn't
glue.
then glued, right? But I think that may be cured in mastering. Sometimes you get a little bit of cohesiveness during mastering, which can happen there. But yeah, apart from that, I also thought we're always talking about the relationship between the bass guitar and the kick. Well, the bass drum, as English people like me call it, but the kick drum. We always talk about that, and if you listen to the replay, do rewind the video and listen to the replay. Why would I want people to do that, Pete, as a YouTuber? But anyway, watch time. Oh yeah. But no, if you rewind and listen to it again, this would be like a really good example of the kick and the bass guitar working well together. They're very much. Now that I don't want to get. Sometimes I want to put a warning with this. This doesn't mean that the kick and the bass always hit on exactly the same beat. But there will be key, often in a lot of contemporary music, there will be key beats, obviously the first beat of the bar and things like that, where they do hit at the same time. This was a good example of that. They were just becoming one instrument when they were hitting. There's just a beautiful balance between, I can hear that kick and I can hear that bass. They're nice and tight together.
I agree. Stuff. Yeah, and that's I call that like the engine room. Like when you're hearing a song like that, it's like the engine room is basically just driving the song along. So if you think it in terms of like the car engine, because it's that low rumble, it's that boom of the bass drum, and it's the boom of the bass guitar. That is what's driving, and that's why I'm pointing it out, because I as a listener was just distracted because it didn't seem to be doing much. But maybe that's exactly what you want. Maybe there's so much going on at the top end that you just want the engine room to just be chugging along, and you don't need a lot of variation, and that's exactly the point of the song. So yeah,
hard to say. I mean, I'm with you a little bit though. I just think that these. I'm going to sound like an old man. We had this conversation the other day. I've got to stop saying these days, because good and bad music has always been produced throughout the ages, right? To be honest with you. But I do sometimes feel that with some music that you don't get quite enough stimulation with the ears in terms of little bits of variation in the song. So sometimes even just a subtle change with something like the drums and the bass, not that so you consciously even notice it, just stimulates the listener, especially in that last quarter of the song where you're perhaps repeating a chorus a couple of times and
absolutely
have something to get excited about.
And it could be as simple as moving from a closed hi-hat to an open, or from a hi-hat to a ride cymbal, just for one part of one verse, just to vary it up. It doesn't have to be like, again, I would rather hear drums like that than overdone drums where every 4 bars there's a ridiculous fill. And we've all worked with those drummers that they just seem to want to fill every empty space with a giant fill. So you definitely don't need that. But
if you've got a drummer like that and a lead guitarist like that, then you've got problems.
You've got a shredding lead guitarist and a has to fill all the time drummer, you've got Guns N' Roses. A lot of people have said that people should be hitting the thumbs up button, or as you always say, if you don't like it, just hit the thumbs up button twice, and that'll help you. The dislike button twice, and then hit the thumbs up button.
I see 30 viewers at the moment and only 24 likes. 6 of you are shortchanging me, but maybe
or
you'll give
you
us
hate us. Or you just really disliking this show. You're hate watching right now, in which case, go do something else. There's no need for that. Come on. Spend your time. You only got one life. Spend a bit more.
Don't listen to him. Don't do something else. Stay, please.
Leave the show running, but then go and do something else.
Everyone's welcome. Even people that talk like that, I think, are welcome here.
I can't believe they told us to push the like button. What are these YouTuber people? They're going to start telling us to subscribe and hit the bell notification.
So, moving on to the last.
Please.
Moving on before we go to the last song. Thank you so much for being here and hitting that like button. I see it's just popped up by a few. There's still 4 people that haven't liked yet, but maybe they'll like this
wait, it's
news.
me. Hang on.
Oh yeah, I haven't liked it. Maybe they'll like this news from the sponsor of the show, DistroKid, who not only is above Pete's head, but also on his tits too. Go on, wobble. If you want to release your music via DistroKid, there's just a couple of things you need. First of all, the music itself. Here's mine in my DAW Cakewalk, and I'm exporting it to an uncompressed WAV file for best results. Now, the other thing you'll need is some artwork. I just grabbed an old photo, which I'd taken on the beach, chucked on some text here, and that's what I call art. Then I went over to DistroKid, and I just have to fill in this extra easy form. It's a no-brainer form. You get helped all the way through with little hints and things. You can't really do anything wrong. You just go ahead and confirm a few things about your music, and then you just have to actually upload the artwork and the song itself, and DistroKid takes care of the rest. It's going to send it out to all of the best platforms so that people can hear and buy your music. It's always nice to have the actual artists in the chat. Nice to see Electric Owlworks, who produced the last song, in here, and I hope that was helpful to you. And I know earlier on I saw our final artist in the chat. His name is, I'll let you read this out actually, Pete. The artist's name, I'll let you do that. And
we'll be hearing from Kevin Parent, and the name of the song is Jaehyun's Theme. I'm very sorry, Kevin. It's Kev, and it's a theme. All right. I tried. Okay, gave it a crack.
So, as I said earlier, Kev, good Kev, if we can call you Kev.
Big Kev.
Kev, if we can call you Kev. Kev, good marketing, by the way. You sent me an email. For people like me and Pete who get a lot of emails, there's got to be something in there to grab our attention. And this is what caught my attention. He said, I'd like to submit this for Fix My Mix. He said, this piece is very unlike anything you've previously featured on the show. I thought, really? Has he watched every single song on the show? Does he know? Anyway,
you played Happy Rod? I mean, come on.
When you audition it, please drop the needle at various points for a second or two. The first 10 seconds barely hint at what comes later. I actually listened all the way through to this because he was absolutely correct. I majored in music composition in college, but at the time when writing music was something we did on paper, which we then handed to the players. I mostly stopped composition for a long time, and when I came back I found that composers are expected to have all kinds of skill sets I never developed. Engineering, mixing and mastering were not part of the curriculum, but I'm trying to learn these now. This is very interesting because I was actually very distracted by the composition. I've got to remember to take note of the mix.
Yeah.
Perhaps everyone could do that in the chat as well. This piece is a wedding present for a friend, and it depicts events in their life. I won't say too much, but there's a naval battle. Now, I immediately thought, when you say naval, do you mean ships or do you mean belly buttons?
There we go.
And I thought the idea of a naval battle...
Is that thing where you jump up and you bash your tummies against something like two fat dudes jumping up and...
I don't know. I never do that. I never do you do that?
Yeah, all the
that
time.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, the big chest bump, but when you got a bit more of a gut, it's more of a gut bump. That is a naval battle. And if one's got an innie and one's got an outie, it's like, oh, anyway, continue on.
Things might get a bit wobbly if we get the chance to do that one day, Pete Johns.
You know we have to do it now. When Mike and I finally meet, I'll just be like, you know what we got to do. And he's like, oh, okay, here we go.
All right, folks, let's be serious. You don't have to score this one out of 10, but yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts about the mix. It's going to be hard to concentrate on the mix, I promise you, with this one, but let's have a go.
All right.
Can I just say, I'm stopping it there.
I was about to have a drink, mate.
I really shouldn't have left this till the end of the show, because when you've got a couple of guys in their older years as the host, the sound of water makes us only want to do one thing.
Maybe I should have a drink.
All right, let's go again.
Wow.
I always do this. I always forget to switch my microphone on. I almost played it a second time.
You did.
I just feel like I just sort of woke up from a little journey I'd been on
Right.
there.
Yeah, that was yeah, that was
Did you
just
manage to make notes of
not
this?
not many at all, because I was yeah, I was kind of lost in a good way. The one thing I put down here is that was just pure atmosphere. So that was just painting a picture, telling a story. Like I understand that they were talking about the fact that it's a theme, because it is and everyone will interpret it a bit differently. But obviously, you had the nautical theme at the start there with the ocean sounds and the birds, and then the explosion, and then kind of went into serenity with the vocals, and then it was like the middle of Bohemian Rhapsody when the guitar came in and did its thing, and then just sort of went away at the end. And the only thing that I can thing to say is that knowing how hard it is to create that sort of music and the level of attention to detail that's gone into the composition, the arrangement, the recording, and then the mixing of that's hours and hours of hard work to get that. And there was a little part there where after the guitar played, there was a little slide at the end, a little ew, and it was just over here on the left side. And just that decision, like little decisions like that, are what makes someone like me listening to this go, yeah, okay, that's perfect. I'm going to come back and listen to that part again next time. So, that was good. Again, it's hard to find, like, hard to take notes and hard to find things to sort of talk about, except for the fact that if it put me into that trance-like state for the last sort of 6 minutes, then kudos, must be good.
Isn't it just wonderful? Kiara just made a comment here, because we've had a little bit of a chat in my Facebook group about the relationship between virtual instruments and emotion, and can we produce emotion with virtual instruments? And this was one of the very sort of, I don't want to be discourteous to other songs that have been on the show, but this is one of a few which have really sort of got to me a little bit emotionally as I've been listening to it in a great way, like just took me on places. So I think Conrad's touching on a good subject. I don't want to go on about that today, but can I just say quickly, there were moments, the vocal parts in this were just, I've written here sublime, a word I very rarely use, but I mean, that was surely a real vocalist. I don't know if that was some sort of library that had been used or whatever, but it sounded like a real vocalist. It was so organic and lovely, but just so nice. And what happened is you had this contrast between this absolute beauty and then these discordant parts that came up, which I've put a note here. I don't know if anyone recognizes. There was a couple of parts that reminded me of the old Planet of the Apes movies. I'm talking about the 1970s one, where there'd be this very dramatic, big orchestral chords, which are very discordant, designed to create tension and an uncomfortable feeling. And that contrasting with that beautiful voice was awesome composition. Really liked that. And then there was this other part which reminded me a little bit of Mike Oldfield. You said, some people said Pink Floyd. I think you mentioned something. Who did you mention?
Like Queen,
like Queen or something like that.
Yeah.
But for me, that guitar sound that was in there was a little bit like a guitar sound that Mike Oldfield used on Tubular Bells, and I mean that in a good way. So there was just so much there. What great composition! Well done, Kevin. In terms of, I was frantically trying to make some notes on purpose a little bit while we were doing this. Why I muted my microphone again. When am I going to learn to unmute? Anyway,
I thought we were just doing like a shocked look where we were both being stunned silence at the end. That's what I was going with it.
So to be helpful to Kevin, and well done, Kevin, a couple of parts which I quickly made, not perhaps going to make much sense to anyone other than Kevin, but there was a part, Kevin, where there was a flute part. I've put flute part. It may have been some other woodwind instruments as well, but it was saying flute to me, which was accompanied at the beginning by some strings. There were more strings that came in later, but at the beginning there was sort of one or two strings. I thought the strings were a little bit too quiet there, Kevin, if you want to address that passage. That was a little bit out of balance. There were some horns that came in later on, Kevin. I think you should rethink the horn library that you were using. It was the only thing in there that just sounded a little bit synthetic to me. Try out some different horn libraries. Mimo Japan may have some good suggestions for you on that. So nothing to do with anything you did wrong in the mix or in the composition, but just to me it was like, yeah, I can hear that's a virtual instrument, which was a shame. And also in the part where there was that distorted guitar, Kevin, I thought there might have been a couple of little timing issues that you might want to readdress there. There was just a little bit of tightness that went a bit off there. But really grasping at straws here. Loved this piece. It's one of my favourite pieces I've had on the show. And I want to encourage anybody else out there who is watching this show and perhaps has a little thought, oh, Mike's only going to play contemporary music, or Mike won't ever play thrash metal, or Mike won't ever play jazz or whatever. No, I'm willing to play absolutely anything on the show. So if you've got anything to submit, follow the instructions down below in the description and let me and my wonderful guests have a listen to your music. Pete.
Very cool. Yeah, it delivered exactly what it said it would. And I think it was very easy for them to do that great marketing job and then just, deliver another folksy acoustic song, which there's nothing wrong with that at all. But yeah, that like my favorite movie score of all time is from Interview with the Vampire, which is a bit of a deep cut, I know, but it's a composer, Elliot Goldenthal. Just that level of anticipation and that rising and falling. And for anyone with any type of music, that piece tells you why dynamic range is so important, why having loud and soft parts, why having full and sparse parts in a piece of music, in a instrumental piece or in a song is so important. Because if it's just, I know a lot of modern music is just boom, boom, boom the whole way through. It's just that sausage waveform that everyone seems to produce these days in pop music. But to me, having that variation and dynamic range just makes a piece or a song so much nicer. Mike's done it to me again. He's going to let me finish the show, is he? Is that it? Okay. So what we like to say is I hope you're well. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you enjoy whatever it is that you get up to. This is where I can promote myself. So jump on over to my channel. The link down in the description, because we've got a happy hour show I'm doing this week. Your Music Live. I do a similar show like this, also sponsored by the wonderful folks at DistroKid. So if you want to jump on over to Studio Live Today, studiolivetoday.com, you can join me over there. And I think this is the part where I have to raise my shirt. So, see, Mike's actually about to get kicked off the air if he lets this happen. So we'll see if he holds his nerve and see how long he goes before I show. No, he's not going to do it. What else is happening in the news? Let's talk about the situation over in No. We're not going to go with that. You know what that last song actually did also remind me of? Carnival of the Animals. Where you got like the different animals, like there's I think 7 different pieces in there. Just having that variation and that range between those, it's very, very cool. Thank you to all the folks who've been here live, by the way. Doug Kidder is here. Mimo Japan. We've got Danny Gable. Thank you all for being here. Who's that? AA Family. You guys are a legend. No, you're a legend. No, you're a legend. Thank you to Keon Rue out of Perth there as well. Who else was joining us here today? Jeremiah. Thank you for being here. Roke Avelanda, who I always say incorrectly. Kevin Parent. Oh, Kevin is here. Says thank you so much, everyone. All these comments. I've lost his comment there. But yeah, thank you, Kevin. That was a really, really good song. So on behalf of my co-host, Mike from Creative Source, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'm going to wave like this with a creepy look on my face until Mike shuts us off. Bye for now.
Okay, well, that was weird, wasn't it?
I finished the show for you.
Did you?
Yeah, and then I ran out of things to say, so I just
So-
I just went to blank.
On my YouTube tab, it shows you still waffling on. But I've still got the ability to end the stream here.
Yeah,
It's still is it still going out?
yeah, you're
Is
still
it?
alive, mate.
Is
You
it-
are.
we're still live, are we?
We are still alive. Hello, everybody.
I
This is
tried
where
to
you get to
join
see
on
the
my
behind
phone.
the scenes.
I've never had this situation before. My whole internet just went down in my house, and I thought, nobody's got the power to end the show. If Pete leaves the show, it's just going to go on for infinity.
Which is what I hoped that if I tried to jump out, it would go, but it didn't work. It just had me sitting there with an avatar saying PJ and me not talking, and I'm like, well, I'll leave it in case Mike can shut it off from his end, but apparently not. No, I was going to show my boobs, I was going to play a song, but I ran out of things to say, mate. So
I was trying everything there. I was trying to reconnect. I was on my phone. I did make a couple of comments. I was then trying to use 4G, which only had 1 bar of signal from my studio here, so that wasn't going too well. And then I thought, I was looking and I was thinking, well, there's still the same amount of people watching. Maybe I should just have Pete do my shows in the future.
They were hoping
me.
they were hoping that I didn't realise that I'd say something really inappropriate or do something dodgy, or they'd see some weird behind the scenes, like when the news cameras are still running and the people don't realise they're live. So no, I know from, and see, here's the thing, because Mike does that to me at the end of most shows. He just cuts me off. So it was actually par for the course. I'm like, oh, Mike's just gone. He's done what he usually does and making me end the show, and then he'll hit it. And the longer I talked, the more I realised that something is not right here, because I tried to finish it off twice, and then I'm just like, I'm going to have to try and leave now. So it didn't work. But there you go. You got a little bonus behind the scenes.
Aussie internet. I love it. It's so good. It's so
The
good.
NBN.
Yes.
I'm just really thankful that for once it wasn't my. Can I swear now? We've got to the
You
end. No,
can.
no one else is
Yeah.
watching. It wasn't my
No one's
fucking
watching.
internet that messed up this time. So I'm actually really happy, because it's usually me. So
Is it you? Does it happen to you?
yeah, absolutely. People that watch my channel will know over the last sort of 6 weeks, I've had all sorts of issues where it will just, like my upload speed, they'll just throttle it down to like one kilobyte,
really?
1 megabit up. Like I was supposed to get about 30, and then I'll get halfway through a stream and it'll just go, pew, and I run a speed test. And I'm still getting 50 down, but I'm getting 1 up. So they're clearly doing some dodgy throttling so that more people can Netflix and chill. So I say, less Netflix people, more chilling. Get off the internet.
Well, anyway, with all that said, thank you so much for the people who hung around during that intermission. This is what it's like to be a YouTuber on a live show. What a great show. Enjoyed all 3 songs in different ways. Loved having you here, Pete. I want to allow you to get on with the rest of your day, but as always, I want to leave you with the final words of wisdom. To everyone who's been in the chat, thank you very much. I'll be back again next week, but I'm going to let Pete Johns do what he does best and finish the show.
This time for real. So take 2 on my final thing. So once again, feel free to join